Hey, welcome to Life Extension Live. They almost caught me dancing, Dr. Crystal.
Hey,
welcome
dancing's a part of self-care, at least for me.
Welcome to our show today. I'm Dr. Michael Smith. I'm the Director of Education for Life Extension, and my co-host is
Dr. Crystal Gosser, Doctor of Clinical Nutrition.
How are you doing today, Dr. Crystal?
I'm doing well today. I feel energized for some reason.
I do. I know. I kind of feel good too. So this is a great topic, right? We're going to talk about something called self-care. Now, we're calling it Self-Care 2.0, and we'll kind of get into that. And I just wanted to start off the show by just letting the audience know, letting you, Dr. Crystal, know just my kind of take on all of this, what self-care means to me. Now, and here's what I think I've come to the conclusion of. Self-care can mean so much to different people, right? There's so many aspects of what we might consider self-care. I know some people, when you hear that, you might think, eating healthy, right? Or maybe, you might think of exercise. You might think of pampering yourself, maybe a massage or something like that.
Yes.
And so we have to understand that there's a lot of different ways to define and interpret what self-care could mean. But I think what we were trying to do, right, Dr. Crystal, and correct me if you don't agree with me, is we were really trying to take this kind of to another level, right? Looking at, yes, pampering yourself, massages, eating good, exercise, all of that can be a part. Taking a vacation, putting your digital devices away for a while, all of this could be considered self-care. But I think we've done a good job at Life Extension. I know you were involved with this as myself as well, in really identifying what we think, especially in today's world, what are some key components at a more physiological level, right? Of self-care. And that's why we're calling this Self-Care 2.0. So, Dr. Crystal, what is, I don't know, when you hear self-care, what does that mean to you?
Well, for me, I can tell you just from my personal experience with self-care, it means that you are being intentional. To me, it's deliberate, where you are setting time aside for you. Things that, incorporating things into your daily routine, your weekly routine. You just make it a part of your life. Things that will make you feel better. Now that looks, as you mentioned, that looks different to different people. For me, it includes exercise and it includes the occasional naps. And that's something that, I
knew you were going to bring naps up.
So many people feel guilty. The other night I had a moment. It was late and I hadn't exercised. Well, it was late in the Gossert house, which was, it was like 7:00.
Well, but remind everybody you have two kids, right? I mean,
I do. Yeah. So a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, we finished dinner and I wanted to exercise. I wanted to go for a bike ride. And actually it was more about around 7:30 going on 8:00 because I was looking and I was thinking, oh boy, it's getting dark. And I can remember going for that bike ride. And when I came back in the house, I felt so guilty. I felt like, oh my goodness, it's late. The kids should be in bed by now. My husband's trying to take care of the kids. I left him all alone. And, and I had to kind of snap myself out of it. And I talked myself off of this guilt ledge because I said, you know what? This is important. It's important to my health. If I'm healthy, my family's healthy, I'm happy. And I think with self-care, a part of it is getting past that guilt.
Yeah, I never really heard it that way, and I appreciate that. But I think you're right on. Self-care should be seen as just as important as as healthy eating, just as important, as taking care of your mind and your body and all that kind of stuff. So I don't, I bet there's a lot of, especially moms,
Yes.
probably, right, that feel a little guilty. I want a self-care day, so my kids are going to the babysitter, whatever. No, I don't think you should feel guilty about that, because I think in the end it makes you a better mom. It makes you a better
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
better person. So I don't, please don't feel guilty about it. I really thought you were going to bring up napping as part of your self-care, and that's what I actually thought that's what you said, because I was waiting for it. I was like,
well, that's a part of it. That's a part of it.
You're a big napper, right?
I am. And, I have to thank my mom for that, especially after I had my first child. My mom said, you sleep when they sleep. Don't you feel guilty? Leave those dishes, leave that laundry.
That's a good point.
You sleep. And I used to come into work and people were like, man, you have a newborn. You seem so refreshed. You don't look tired at all. And I'm like, whoa, look at my house.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
But I think that's a part of self-care.
Yeah, and I think this is really interesting, right? I mean, you and I have just two totally different lifestyles and lives, right? I don't have any kids. I have a dog, and so how you define it is really completely different how I might actually define self-care. But again, bringing it back a little bit into more of a what we're kind of, I guess, considering more physiological components of self-care. And one of the things that we've learned at Life Extension with all the rigorous research that we do, all the publications that we do, is that there are three really key, I don't know, what we would call them, pillars, whatever that is.
I like that.
Pillars, of self-care. That's why we're calling it 2.0. And that obviously is stress management, better sleep, and a stronger immune response. I more and more I'm beginning to appreciate how those three components or pillars, they aren't separated. They're not like in a vacuum, right, Dr. Crystal? These physiological processes, stress, sleep, immunity, they really are interconnected, and we're learning more and more that they do influence each other. So at a deeper, more physical level, self-care really does need to address stress, sleep, and the immune response. What do you think?
Absolutely. We do know when one improves, the other two improves. When one's, just not together, the other two can be compromised as well. So you do see this relationship between these three. I like how you put it, these three pillars. I was kind of thinking in my mind, it's kind of the foundation for self-care.
I like that too, right? Yeah. These pillars are holding up self-care in a sense, right? And then on top of that, so you have these three pillars, which form this base that you can then do other things for self-care. For you, it was exercising that moment. For me, it might be a massage or swimming with my dog. I mean, believe it or not, that's self-care to me. To be able to put the phone away and the emails away and just go swim with my golden retriever, who's just as crazy in the water. It's wonderful, right?
Yes.
But I think I like where we're going with this. We have these pillars of stress, sleep, and immunity, and they form that base that then other things that we do can just amplify our self-care. And why, at the end of the day, why is it all important? Because you are important. Your health is important. Your mental health is important. And if you're taking care of yourself, again, I'm going to say it, I think that extends out where you become better in other facets of your life.
So true. I think about it like no one has to live in your body or in your mind. If you're going to live to be 80, 90 years old, you have to take care of that body. You need to take care of your mind. And, I think, it even goes beyond, I kind of look at it as a mind, body, spirit, emotional perspective, thinking about the physical and the emotional
For
sides of
sure.
these things. And all of those factors kind of fall into, the buckets of these three pillars.
Yeah. So we're going to go, I guess just to be able to talk about all of this, we are going to look at each pillar individually, right?
Yes.
I guess the challenge or the opportunity for the audience and people who are watching this live right now, and people who watch it later, right? We promote this
Yes.
later. You can see it pop up in your Facebook feed tomorrow, whatever. Please take a look. The challenge is don't forget that they're interconnected, right? And so
Yes.
as we go through this, Dr. Crystal, let's remind ourselves and the audience that, hey, remember, we're talking about this because this does have influence on those other two important pillars as well.
Yes, and speaking of our viewers, we have Rosanna on. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, Rosanna. How you doing? Oh, by the way, wait, Dr. Crystal, we should ask them, how do they define self-care?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
We
Comment.
would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Let us know. Like when you hear self-care, like what's that first thing that pops into your mind? This keeps happening to me, Dr. Crystal. Every time I challenge somebody to do that, like when you hear self-care, what keeps popping into my mind over and over again is a massage. I think is my body trying to tell me something?
You need one.
I'm not a big massage person. I've had a few in my life, but it's funny. Every time we've been reviewing this, researching this, preparing for the show, that's what pops up for me.
I agree. I think about, a spa day.
Yeah.
That's
great.
Oftentimes, that's what I think is often associated with self-care is, relaxing in the spa. And, there's a little bit more to it.
Yeah, yeah. So let us know in the comments what it means to you. So we're going to start. So, Dr. Crystal and I, we actually, we were talking a lot about what order we wanted to talk about these things, right? And we thought to go ahead and start with stress, because I think, I guess stress for me is the big one. Outside of what we're dealing with, today, stress is really, if you're dealing with excess stress, chronic cortisol stuff, we'll get into all that. Boy, I really think that ultimately has an absolute influence on those other two pillars, right?
100%. And, I'm happy we were able to chat and kind of reorganize our thoughts. And yes, I think focusing in on ways to manage stress. And there are lots of things that we do that help with this pillar. So, like your spa days or your massages and those things can help us to manage our stress better.
A nice nap once in a while in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
You know my problem with naps, right? We've talked about that, right?
You wake up groggy.
I can't do it. No, it's not groggy. I wake up grumpy. I'm just, I don't know. So I'm not a great napper. And I know you said maybe I'm napping too long, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a good napper. I wish I was. I really,
I'll tell you, research shows right around the 10-minute mark is an ideal nap time, believe it or not. 5 minutes, not so much. 20 minutes, you wake up groggy and kind of out of it. Yeah. So really about that 10-minute power nap is a pretty nice goal.
So let's get back into, as everybody knows, if you watch our show, Dr. Crystal tends to go off on tangents, and I got to bring her back. So we're coming back to I think actually I did that tangent.
Yes, you did.
So we're coming back to stress. Again, I think it's important that we have to remember we don't want to villainize stress. Stress is a normal physiological response to stimuli in the environment. Without a stress response, we wouldn't live. There just can't happen, right?
It's how humanity has survived and thrived for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah. So I don't want to get into the deep, physiology of it, but it's, at the end of the day, it's pretty straightforward. Something happens. you have a set of hormones. The big one people know is cortisol, right? That's your stress hormone. And there's other things. There's adrenalines and all this kind of stuff. But these are basically compounds that turn on what we call the sympathetic drive. It's the fight or flight. It's that response that allows you to survive whatever might be going on. But in a perfect world, right, when that stimulus is gone, we calm down, right? We should all of those active, powerful hormones and stuff and compounds should drop, and we should level out, and everything should be okay. That's the ideal response. But Dr. Crystal, maybe you could help us to understand what's happened to that ideal response in today's world.
Well, it's the chronic stress, it's the financial problems, the difficult relationships, the work expectations. These things, they never really go away.
Yeah.
And you can't fight them or fight or flight. You can't
flight because they follow you.
Yes, you can't get away from them. So these are kind of these chronic stressors, and our stress response, the body was really not designed for, all of the hormones and chemicals that's produced and the changes that occur in the body during that acute stress response. The body's just not set up for that to go on long term. However, it happens, and the body, can't often tell the difference between like a physical stressor and these psychological stressors. Point. So, the stress that's in our minds, can still give us this fight or flight response. And, that leads to many chronic health issues.
Yeah. And I think most people are now familiar with really the consequences, the dangerous consequences of chronic stress, ranging from heart issues, brain issues, mood disorders, even mortality. As it's chronic stress is shown to decrease longevity, right? So I think more and more people understand that. So I guess ultimately what we try to do at Life Extension, and this is how I see it, then maybe you can chime in and let us know how you see it. But if I go back to that original thought I had about what the stress response is, something happens, all of those active compounds go up in your body so that you can fight or flight, all that stuff. But at some point, they should diminish as the stimulus diminishes and things calm down. So I don't know. I always approach it this way, and I think Life Extension does a great job with this. Well, if we follow that pattern, then we need to help reduce those stimuli that are causing us to be like, let's get them down, right? And then let's do things that helps our body bring down those active, crazy compounds and bring up the calming ones. And so when you look at our protocols that we have on stress management, we're ultimately just trying to get back to a more normal resolution response to stress, right?
Yes. And, and we're trying to bring the body back into balance. We call that a state of homeostasis. And sometimes that's where, the exercise can come in to help to kind of bring that body back down. I think you've talked about this when you think about the stress and you have all of these chemicals, and then you exercise and you actually kind of use up some of that.
You burn them off. Yeah.
Right.
No, I firmly believe that. I mean, it's not, we always talk about cortisol, right? And that's the main one. And we should focus on that, but it's not just cortisol, right? I mean, if you're going to fight or flight, you also need the adrenalines, the epinephrines. These are compounds that get your heart going and your vessels open. And so why not? I mean, basically they're acting like exercise. So go out and exercise.
Exactly.
Yes, you might have a great workout.
And we know that exercise also increases the opposing chemical to like the norepinephrines and the epinephrine, which is GABA. Yeah. And that's our calming brain chemical that can just help the body to kind of calm down, and it helps to balance off some of those excitatory neurotransmitters.
Yeah. So we've talked about, you and I have had a lot of discussions. We have our podcast, Live Foreverish. You can check that out at liveforeverish.com. And you one time, I don't remember what the topic was. It was stress related. I'm not sure if it was about adaptogens or cortisol. We've done so many, right? But I remember you specifically saying something about when it comes to lifestyle stuff, eating breakfast on a regular basis could actually be pretty important. Tell us a little bit about food. Tell us a little bit about how we eat, how that might affect stress levels.
Well, you're right. And this has been demonstrated in clinical research as well. There is a connection between people who eat breakfast in the morning and people who don't. And it's, researchers are still trying to kind of identify that connection between the breakfast and what's happening with cortisol. But we do know you get a surge of cortisol. That's our main stress hormone first thing in the morning. That's what helps us to kind of wake up.
It goes up.
Energizes us, right? But typically after you eat breakfast, you don't want that cortisol to stay elevated, throughout the day. That cortisol needs to kind of start coming down. And what researchers have found, whenever you have breakfast, the cortisol starts to lower. So we do see people who regularly skip breakfast develop increased cortisol output.
So I have to ask, so what is, okay, is there a time frame from when I get up to when I need to eat to help control cortisol? Did they look at that? Like if I get up and I wait 1 hour, is that okay? Does that help? If I get up and it's 2 hours later that I'm eating, is that too long? Is that almost like I skip? Is there any information that helps to, like, when should I eat, I guess, is what I'm saying when I get up? I don't know. Why are you laughing at me?
Because you always ask the nitty gritty details.
Because when I hear you, I'm thinking, well, I probably eat an hour and a half or so after I get up. Is that too late? I don't know. What do you think?
I think an hour and a half after you get up, it would not be considered like too late. I mean, most people, they wake up, they take a shower. And so when you talk about skipping breakfast, this is the person who they're not eating until lunch. They're not eating
many hours. Yeah. Someone gets up at 7, they're not eating until noon. That's right. That's skipping breakfast. Do you eat breakfast every day?
No. Confession.
I just diagnosed you. Now we know the problem.
It all depends on the morning. I would have to tell you. On days where I know I have a very mentally challenging morning, I will wake up. I will have an egg because I want the lecithin for my brain, or I'll even, have a shake and put some lecithin in there, have some good protein. So it really all depends on my day. But, I do intermittent fasting for every now and then. That's a whole nother topic.
Wait, you're still doing, you change so much. I cannot keep up with your dietary. Dr. Crystal has tried everything, and apparently she keeps trying everything. I don't know.
It's something, it's not every day, but I think every once in a while it's good to kind of challenge your body. We do know how that can help to kind of jumpstart.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, changing routines and stuff. We already know that changing exercise routines can actually be beneficial to building more muscle and stuff. Maybe there's a live in there somewhere, talking
Probably.
about changing different styles, how you eat and how you exercise. But so at the end of the day, there are some lifestyle stuff you can do, like eating breakfast regularly is important.
Caffeine.
Watch your stimulants coming in. Alcohol. I know people, consider alcohol, like you hear that, you think of it as a downer, but alcohol, when that starts to be metabolized and starts to get out of your system, that turns on the stress response, basically. That's why often people after a night going out, they wake up in the middle of the night. After that
Yes.
alcohol has been off, they wake up because that cortisol is up now and stuff. So watch, limit your alcohol intake, watch your caffeine. End of the day, this is a whole nother topic, but if you really want to know the food to eat, follow the Mediterranean diet. That's my opinion. I think that's Life Extension's opinion. What do you think?
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Now, so let's move into like supplementation, things that we can do to help with stress a little bit here. And I'm going to start off with one that I really believe in, that I know is a little controversial for people. I do not believe it should be controversial, but it is, because it's a hormone. And that hormone is DHEA. DHEA is a hormone that actually, when you look at the research, has been shown to counter a lot of the effects of cortisol. Here's one example, Dr. Crystal. Cortisol, when it's high, suppresses the immune response. DHEA enhances immune function. That's just one example. So yes. I'm a big believer in DHEA supplementation. Get your labs done, know where your level is, know where your dose is, all that kind of stuff. Yes, yes, yes. But what do you think about DHEA?
Funny you would ask. I just started DHEA. I had left. I know these people, our listeners and viewers probably think I'm making this stuff up, but
she's not. Oh no, she does it all. I've seen her desk at work. She has more stuff out. She does it all, and when she says she does it, she really does.
I'm feeling good. I tell you, I do a really low dose, 15 milligrams. So I'm, and people, it ranges from 10 milligrams up to even, 200 milligrams if you're trying to give your immune system a jolt. But mine is kind of a daily 15 milligrams. I had lab testing about a month ago. Yeah. My DHEA was...
You don't have to tell us the number, but I'm just curious. Where did you, and maybe this is an opportunity, Dr. Crystal, to explain normal versus optimal, but where did you fall in that range?
Well, I was at the low end of the normal range for my sex and age.
Normal range. So you're at the low end of normal range, which means based on how Life Extension like hormones, you're really low.
Right. Yeah. So I go to, and my doctor is an integrative practitioner. And so when we look at the actual lab work, it did not flag me as being low.
Because you were at that end of that range.
Mentioned, I could use just a little bit. And so that's why, and maybe even I may back it off of every day and may switch to, 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing, and I think a lot of people, as you mentioned, it's a hormone, so they think hormones, but you have to base it on lab work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's key. And we don't, Life Extension is very serious about that, right? We don't nilly-willy just tell people to take something like DHEA. The proper way to do it is know what your baseline is. That helps to determine your dose. And then you need follow-up labs to make sure you're on the right dose. Maybe you need a little more. Maybe you need a little less. Maybe you can go to every other day dose. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways and approaches. But lab testing goes hand in hand with taking something like DHEA. Maybe that's also why some people would rather try some other stuff because they don't want to do all of that testing. But it's not as bad as you think. I've been taking DHEA for a while now. I don't know, many years. And by the way, I do it every other day.
Okay.
I found a dose that works for me. It keeps my blood level good. But I only have to check once a year now because I've been doing it so long, I'm steady with it. So maybe at the beginning when you first start taking hormones, maybe a couple times a year, maybe even 3 times a year, you might have to look at where you're at. But eventually you get to this place where you got that dose. And it's really just once a year at that point. So it's not as crazy as people think, right?
Yes. And I feel like with my DHEA, it was a 2-pronged purpose. It was to bring the DHEA levels up a little bit. And then I'm hoping to get some of that DHEA to convert into testosterone, which in women, you do see it, being more converting more in that direction versus converting into estrogen, but it can convert into both. So that's, something to always keep in mind. But we do know that the DHEA helps support cortisol, but if you can get that over into testosterone with the conversion, testosterone is great for mental well-being as well.
Yeah, very good point.
That was my doctor with everything that's going on, in the world. And sometimes you start feeling a little stressed. You can, look at hormones as a way to kind of help you manage that stress.
Correct. I want to move now from the hormones. Now there's so many things we could talk about here. Adaptogens. One of our favorites is the combination of theanine and lemon balm for that quick little calm you down a little bit. It's great stuff. Mm-hmm. But what I think is really interesting, and I think we're going to learn more and more about this, is how probiotics can actually support mood and support stress. Right. So
Yes.
Isn't that's that whole gut-brain connection thing? And so give us your take on that connection here to here.
Yes.
And is it true? Can these probiotics really help?
Well, you don't have to take our word for it. That's what the research shows, is that they can be helpful. And I actually found a study that where the supplemented patients in this study saw reductions in self-blame, higher problem-solving skills, and the individuals who took these specific strains of probiotics. And that's something to keep in mind. These are probiotics. When you look at probiotics, there's, the species and there's the strain. And sometimes you'll see like the little numbers after the probiotic. In this study, one is, Lactobacillus helveticus, Roselle number 52.
Right.
So that's just an example of, you kind of have to look at those details with probiotics. But, there's research, and in the research with that particular strain combined with another strain of probiotics, there was a 49% drop in overall psychological distress, 50% decrease in some of the scores of depression, 60% decrease in anger, hostility scores.
Wow.
And what's nice, they saw a 13% decrease in cortisol. And these are, with the cortisol, the placebo participants in the studies didn't see this change in cortisol. Yeah. And this is with taking a probiotic, a randomized placebo-controlled study. So it's something where we have the data to support how they can be beneficial.
I love it. I think there's so much more to the microbiome, the gut microbiome, and how these healthy bacteria can really affect our health in a positive way. So check that out, definitely. And I like that you went into that. Another way of thinking about species and strain is like dogs. I have my golden retriever. A friend of mine had what did she have? What was Bruiser? Bruiser was a crazy Chihuahua, nuttier than a fruitcake dog, and yet they're both dogs, but totally different strains in a way, right?
Right.
The retriever loves to swim. The Chihuahua would never go near the water. Just as an example, and that's what we mean by really looking at the specifics of these different strains and how they can affect heart, mood, immune, really whole body benefits. So that's pillar number one, dealing with stress. Go ahead.
Now, we do have a couple of comments and a question that I wanted to address.
Okay.
And one is a comment from my mom. Hi, Barbara Moore.
Hi,
Breakfast kickstarts your metabolism, get you into burning fat. Absolutely. And then Maria mentioned that she had a question about kombucha.
Oh, no. Show them your kombucha.
I have kombucha right here.
Don't show the brand. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't look at the brand. Kombucha, she asked, does have a very small amount of alcohol content. Can you drink it in the morning? I believe is what she asked.
Well, she heard there's a little bit of alcohol in it. Can you address that?
Yes, I mean it's not enough to even warrant you having to have an ID to purchase it. Yeah. Actually, depending on which part of the store you purchase it in. So, some grocery stores have a kombucha that's in the alcohol section. Don't drink that one in the morning. Buy the one that's, with the veggie juices. That one, it will not have a 21 and over label, and you can purchase it, and it has, just very, very small amounts, and nothing that's going to compromise your capacity.
Yeah. So that's great. So we need to move this on. So that's stress, and that's a big, big pillar. And there's no doubt if you're stressed, remember these pillars we're talking about do not live and function in a vacuum, right? They influence each other. And so there's no doubt if you're stressed out, your sleep most likely is being affected, right? So let's move this conversation into sleep and how important that is. So Dr. Crystal, here's your quiz. You ready?
Make it hard.
No, I'm not going to make it hard. What is the most important thing to do to help you sleep, to have healthy sleep every night? Is it number one?
Okay.
Avoid devices like phones and stuff like that. That's A. Is it B? Go to bed at the same time every day. Or is it C? Sleep in a cold environment.
I'm not choosing one. All of the above.
It is all of the above. Yay! Yeah. So those are what we call sleep hygiene things, right? Yeah. Yes. I think that's actually. I know I have family members. The minute they're having problems sleeping, they call and say, "Well, what can I take?" No. We're not gonna talk about another pill first. We're gonna talk about what are you doing before you go to bed. Meaning, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. That's what we call sleep hygiene. And we don't have time to get into all of it, but definitely just real quick, right? Don't you agree? At some point, 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed, you got to put your phone down.
Put it away.
You got to get off your laptop. Some people would even say turn the TV, right? Turn light on that's a little lower and dimmer, right?
Yes.
Like give your body a break. Set your brain up for sleep, right? Definitely watch what you eat. No stimulants. Believe it or not, going to bed at the same time every night is very important. It does work. And yes, a cold environment. It is true. The best way to sleep is naked and cold, except socks on your feet.
Socks. Oh, you know about the socks trick.
Yes. Of course I know that. So anything to add to the hygiene?
I think, you really should remove the television from the bedroom.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yes, no. That's a part of it. And, what we like to suggest is don't leave charge your phone on your nightstand. Put it somewhere in the other room so that you're not tempted to be on your phones. And use the blue light blocking glasses if you need to.
Didn't you demo those once?
I did.
Oh, I would love to see you in those glasses again.
Well, my glasses
they're like this big.
My glasses broke. I'm sure my husband is sad about it. He purchased matching blue light blocking glasses for us. Yeah. And we were just,
matching blue light blocking glasses. That's cute in some weird way. That's nice.
Yes, but he's the blue light police. Yeah. Around the house.
So I'm going to read off of the stat thing we have here. According to the National Sleep Foundation, 30% of Americans experience sleep disruptions.
Now, I have to tell you, I looked into this stat and I actually looked into our insomnia protocol, and I was surprised to see with the elderly or older population, one of the main issues is medications. So I would say, maybe talk to your doctor if you're having trouble sleeping or you just started a medication and you're having trouble sleeping. Find out from the doctor, hey, could it be this medication that I'm taking?
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, very good point. We tend to forget about all the drugs people take, right?
Yes.
Especially multiple drugs, right, in the older population.
Right.
Here's another one: 10% struggle with insomnia. I thought that was kind of low. I thought that would have been a little bit higher. And then the CDC says that more than a third of American adults do not get the recommended 7 hours to 8 hours of sleep per night. So we definitely have a sleep problem, and we shouldn't, because you got to sleep. I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, you got to get a good night's sleep, right?
Well, I'll tell you what motivated my mom to start sleeping, since she's on. And I went to visit her, and she said it a million times, is the amount of calories that you burn when you're sleeping. 400 more calories by sleeping. And this is in a study where the participants slept about 5.5 hours versus 8.5 hours. 400 more calories by sleeping for 3 more hours, just adding in those 3 additional hours. So that's motivation. If it's not motivation for you, with all of the other benefits with sleep and the immune system and stress and everything like that, weight tends to be a good motivating factor.
Yeah, for sure, for most people. So obviously people that are, practice the sleep hygiene, but a lot of, people need more. So most people do first turn to melatonin, and that's a great first start, right?
Yes.
And it's important to remember too, melatonin isn't just about sleep. It's an important compound for the immune system. It's a great antioxidant for the brain.
Bones.
May have some anti-cancer properties. So it's a great hormone to take. I take melatonin every night, and I don't necessarily take it for sleep. I actually do okay sleeping. I believe in some of those extra benefits that I'm getting from melatonin. And so that's a great place to start. Well, I think most people start low, right? Maybe a milligram, work that up. I think on average, people probably need between 3 and 6 milligrams, but start low and work it up, and just find that level of melatonin. And there's all kinds of forms, right? There's fast acting. Life Extension has a great one of those. There's extend release. So you do have to run error, right, with melatonin for people.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you'll have a good idea how you determine the best dose for you. You kind of work your way up. If you start having, waking up groggy, maybe now it's time to kind of cut back a little bit on the dose.
People
but it's
have
a very
individualized
dosing for melatonin.
People have weird dreams on melatonin, and they often give up with that, but that might be just doing a higher dose. So before you give up on melatonin, try to cut that down. And again, there's so much. We could have a whole live on melatonin. That'd be great. But I wanted to bring up one that I think is really interesting, and it goes back to that old wives' tale about warm milk.
Yes.
Right before bedtime. Tell us a little bit about why it turns out that looks to be true.
Well, it seems like cow's milk in particular contains peptides. And peptides are, if we think about a protein, these are kind of smaller units from that protein. And those peptides in research actually support sleep and relaxation. So, sometimes it's those wives' tales, there's something to it once we start looking into the research.
I find it fascinating. So often the natural medicine industry will do research that actually then confirms the historical and anecdotal use of all of these different supplements we do, right? Things that people have been doing for centuries and millennia. I love it when we actually research it and say, oh, they were right.
Yes.
They actually knew what they were doing, right? And that's an amazing thing. And that's a great example of one. So milk peptides, specifically from cow's milk. Now you could try warm milk. There are supplements out there that actually have those key peptides, like concentrated, basically, that might help better. There's the melatonin, and then don't forget about other calming ones. There's chamomile. I have a nice little. It's called, I think, Sleepy Time tea.
That used to be my favorite, Sleepy Time Extra.
Yeah.
But what we now see with chamomile, again, now that we're kind of researching what's in these herbs that we've used for centuries, chamomile has an active component called apigenin.
Ooh,
And
you're getting fancy.
And that apigenin is really what's kind of helping with some of the stress and supporting sleep.
Yeah.
So, when you're looking for chamomile, it's maybe you should look for more of a standardized chamomile extract.
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of the teas are not standardized like that. It's just kind of chamomile, but it works. Chamomile, a little melatonin works great for me. So a lot of different. I think the last thing I want to say about sleep is it's critically important to overall health. I mean, I think we all recognize that and understand that. But what's going to help you sleep is going to be very personalized, right? Everybody's different. Practice those hygiene things, and then you just have to do a little trial and error stuff between melatonin, even some adaptogens, the calming ones like the chamomile. Consider some milk peptides. I mean, there's other things in that mix as well. But often, what you find, what helps one person, which is kind of this little regimen that works for them, doesn't necessarily work for somebody else. And so you just have to take your time with it and find that right regimen. And by the way, Life Extension has wellness specialists that you can call, and they can help you build these regimens and evolve them over time, right? So
that's right.
So we got to move into the last pillar here, which is immune. So we have stress, sleep, and now immunity. And I like the order we did, because I think people now appreciate, at the end of the day, high stress, lack of sleep, ultimately the big hit that the body takes is the immune response. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. We do know that that the immune response is very delicate in that way, that there's so many factors can affect the immune system. When you think about sleep, and without being so complicated, but we sometimes talk about these the circadian rhythm and kind of this master clock in the brain that's affected by melatonin. And then you have all of these clocks and cells, and you have these clock genes that are even in immune cells. And so you see that connection when the body is just out of rhythm. It can affect you at the cellular level.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can negatively affect, the performance of your immune cells. They're not able to properly recognize a pathogen once it's, entered the body. They're not making, the communicator, those messengers and those cytokines aren't, being made properly. And all of that is affected by sleep and stress.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a perfect description of what we're trying to convey today, is the interconnection between these main pillars of self-care 2.0 that influence each other and overall influence health. Now, I think what I'd like to do is just real quickly kind of lay out some key things that happens to the immune system that lack of sleep, high stress can accelerate, but just also happens as we age, right? Yeah. And this is what I love about natural medicine, is when we identify these components of an aging immune system or an immune system that's affected by stress and sleep, we're able to specifically target those things with nutrition and supplements to help reverse that, so you can increase the strength of your immune system. So there's basically, I know, Dr. Crystal, I'm going to way oversimplify this, right? So just let me have it. You're going to want to dive into all this other stuff, I already know. But at the end of the day, As we get older, stress and sleep, what happens is we don't make as many brand new immune cells, right? We're not making enough of these new ones. We have these old ones called memory cells that really don't do much anymore but cause problems. Like that increases. And then we have just this more erratic production of cytokines. Cytokines are these messengers that help immune cells coordinate their immune response. But as Dr. Crystal just said, those cytokines can get all out of whack and everything, and they're just not as balanced. Even production can just drop off. And so what we do at Life Extension is we try to reverse all that. We want to help you make new immune cells. We want to help get rid of some of those old grumpy memory cells causing problems. And then we want to help increase production of certain cytokines and balance them, which brings me to the very first supplement. We're going to talk about it over and over again in many shows because it's so important, and that is vitamin D.
All right. Bring on the sunshine.
Bring on. We got plenty of it right now in South Florida, let me tell you.
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we are encouraged to not really spend as much time in the sun because of the harmful effects to the skin and
Right.
It's just hot.
Right now, it's not fun being outside. I know it's just hot, but vitamin D, again, we could talk about this like over and over. As a matter of fact, we're going to do some lives coming up on vitamin D, right?
We are. I'm excited about it.
Wednesday, but we go live every Wednesday at 3:00. The first Wednesday of every month, it's the show like you're seeing, and then the subsequent Wednesdays for the month, Crystal and I will take turns. But we're going to be talking about vitamin D the rest of the month and how important that is. So we don't need to get into details now, but everything I just described about an aging immune system or an immune system affected by stress and sleep, vitamin D helps with all that. Vitamin D has been shown to help just about every component of the immune system, including new cells and including those cytokines. That's probably the big thing that I think vitamin D does, is it's a manager, an orchestrator of a balanced cytokine production. So I please, vitamin D should be a daily supplement for all of us. Later on in the month, we'll get into how much do you take, blood levels, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But right now, just keep that in mind, vitamin D. Let's move into one that I don't think people hear about really.
No.
I think this one is one that people may go, what is that? And that is black cumin seed oil. What do you think about that, Crystal?
I can remember
Dr. Crystal.
reading about black cumin. It's one that you even see in some of the historical religious text. Has been used for a very long time for overall health. But we do see that it helps to support the one of my favorite immune cells, and I don't know why I think it's my favorite, but I do, and it's your natural killer cells. Yeah. And I think of them as the guys on the front line.
It's funny how in this industry, when you work in this industry long enough, you do end up having favorites. Like favorite supplement, favorite food, favorite antioxidant, favorite immune cell. Isn't that weird? We're weird people.
I'm telling you, the natural killer cells are the cells that they recognize cells that like maybe a virus has infected, or even a cell that has become cancerous, but they're out there kind of on the front lines, floating around in the bloodstream, and they're just taking out all the bad guys. And so I like them. And so we see black cumin seed is beneficial with helping those. And then it can also help with the more advanced strategic immune response.
Oh, I like the way you said that. Yeah.
Yes. And so you do see black cumin kind of working as a broad immune system support nutrient.
Yeah. Because we talk a lot about the vitamin D, the vitamin C, the zinc. We've talked about selenium, and again, all that stuff is important. We're not all of these nutrients can play a major role in helping to enhance your immune response. We just wanted to bring up another one that you may not have heard of, black cumin seed. So it's a great one. There's some good research shown that helps with allergies and stuff. So something to consider as well as you build your self-care 2.0 regimen. Dr. Crystal, that is a lot.
I know.
Woo! I think my hair's a little messy.
I know mine is messy. I get all excited.
Listen, I'm so happy everybody could join us. Don't forget, comment. We have a great social media team. Holly and Brittany, they will get to your questions and stuff, and we answer pretty quickly, right? We take that very seriously. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Self-Care 2.0. Don't forget how important it is that the stress, the sleep, and your immune response is all interconnected, and they can kind of form the foundation then for a lot of the rest of the self-care stuff that you might want to do, like naps for Dr. Crystal and maybe a massage for myself. I don't know. Dr. Crystal, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. Great show.
Listen, you guys don't forget, every Wednesday, 3 o'clock, you can find us live. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, so that you never miss a show. And don't forget our podcast, too, liveforeverish.com. I want to thank everybody again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.